Zaldrizes buzdaris gosdau.
We got some images and videos piling up for House of Dragon Season 2 filming. I want to discuss those in this video. But before I jump into any of that, please do me a massive favor. If you enjoy my content, after you finish watching it, slap a like on it. Like goal is going to be 420. Get it? And then also, this is the most important thing you could ever do for my channel, or anybody you're a fan of here on YouTube. Like, if you enjoy watching someone's videos and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, that's one of the best things you can do. Subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel and anybody else you're a fan of here on YouTube. It greatly helps us out. Okay, so some of the first images we have that I want to discuss are these Lannister soldiers, right? So apparently some members of House Lannister are going to be meeting with members of House Lefford. This is from Redanian intelligence. They've been a very strong source of a lot of this leaked information for House of the Dragon during the Season 2 filming process. Not just pictures from set, but also casting leaks. Be sure to go check out their website, or actually follow them on Twitter, because you'll get like the latest House of the Dragon information. Like, usually if you go and search House of the Dragon on like the hashtag on Twitter, some of the first images that pop up are probably reposted from Redanian intelligence. But just as a bit of back history for House Lefford, this is kind of interesting. House Lefford is a bannerman to House Lannister. House Lannister sides with the Greens during this war, mostly because Jason and Tywin are so heavily wrapped up. Remember, Jefferson Hall is playing both characters, but Jason Lannister is Lord of Castle Rock, and with that comes the title of the Shield of Lannisport. So he's in charge of all the Westermen that side with the Greens. One of the main reasons why Jason sides with the Greens is because his brother Tywin, right, is in the King's Small Council. His brother Tywin has got a crazy story and arc, but he's basically Master of Coin for King Aegon II when he's crowned. So Lannisters at this time side with the Greens. And then later on, when Rhaenyra takes power, she has Tywin tortured, and he ends up like confessing to a bunch of things, but he loses an eye and has terrible like scars and stuff from when Rhaenyra was torturing him. But he ends up sticking around. He makes it through the entirety of the dance, and then becomes hand to the king for, get this, Rhaenyra's son, King Aegon III. Isn't that interesting? This dude goes through a lot. But in the leaked image of some of the House of Lannister soldiers meeting with House Lefford, is kind of interesting, because in significance to the plot of the story, there's this something known as the Battle of the Red Fork, in which the Westermen that are being sent out by Aegon II try to cross the Red Fork 3 separate times, but are completely slaughtered. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the Westermen have 1,000 knights, but 7,000 archers. It's just like a slaughter, right? So after Jason Lannister dies in that battle, the Western army, like the forces of Lannister, Castle Rock, everything that's like a strong, significant amount of Aegon II's support, is then led by Adrian Tarbeck. And then once he dies, Sir Humphrey Lefford leads the Western forces, right? So that's kind of the connection there between the Lannister soldiers meeting up with House Lefford. And then kind of related to that, or those images rather, we have these images of these wains, these like wagons that look like they're enforced and armored enough to be prison wains. Now this is totally nonsensical. Take this with a grain of salt, right? Nothing is confirmed to air until it appears on our screens when House of the Dragon Season 2 comes out next year, right? But somebody sent me a message and said that one of these wagons will actually be used to transport the head of Melees back to King's Landing. That's kind of believable, right? We do know that that march is going to happen through the streets, but then they said another one of these wagons is going to be used to, get this, transport half-dead Rhaenys who's burned and like half charred, right, back to King's Landing for a public execution. Nonsense, totally nonsensical. Let me know what you think about that down below in the comment section. What these wagons likely are, and what a lot of these scenes with the Lannister soldiers likely are, is that as soon as Aegon is in power, right, his advisors start having him do things, or, asking his permission to do things that would advance his cause, right? So one of them, for instance, is his grandfather, who's hand of the king at the time, Sir Otto, ends up sending out to the three sisters, the Triarchy, and asking them for help, right? They're fighting against one of the Triarchy's #1 enemies down in the Stepstones, Daemon and Corlys. So that ends up happening, or coming to fruition during the Battle of the Gullet. But one of the other things that happens is Lord Jason Lannister's brother, Lord Tyrant, the Master of Coins, right, played by Jefferson Hall, decides to send half of the crown's wealth to Casterly Rock, and then the other half to another location, so that if Rhaenyra were to take the kitty, Rhaenyra takes the kitty, I want to take Rhaenyra the kitty, if Rhaenyra does, when Rhaenyra takes the city, right, she doesn't have any gold. Like, literally, the plan works flawlessly, because the Lannisters, like, as far as Targaryens are concerned with their dragons, cannot get into the Lannister strong keep of Casterly Rock. So putting the gold there is ingenious, right? So what ends up happening is Lord Tywin does get tortured, like I mentioned, but Rhaenyra has to heavily tax the citizens of King's Landing to the point where they literally hate her. Because she's taxing them for everything, but she has to replenish the crown's coffers because she has a war to run, right? She's got to finish controlling the Seven Kingdoms. So it'll be interesting to watch the citizens of King's Landing vote for Rhaenyra, like basically be like, no, we want the real queen. When they try to turn the crowds at King's Landing against her in Season 2, the crowds are going to be with her initially, right, when she takes it at the end of Season 2, and then in Season 3 we're going to see that taxation policy come up, and eventually everybody will start to hate her, which makes her more psycho. She starts to turn on all of her closest advisors, which then make them do certain things against her. And then we have this infamous image, and I say infamous because it's like it's pretty clear that this is some sort of northern scene, right? Like when you put it side by side, I've actually made a video talking about this. When you put it side by side with some of the images of Castle Black, what the set looked like while they were filming, you could tell that the Castle Black set was way larger. Now, they are supposedly still building and adding certain things to this set. Like you can see they added this little thing that some people are calling the elevator lift that's used to get from the bottom of the wall to the top of it. They're saying that that's been added and this and that, maybe that's the case, but the winch that hoists the Castle Black boys up to the top of the wall is completely CGI. Like the entire thing is CGI, so they wouldn't really be adding anything for that aside for place markers. When we start, if we start to see green backdrops and green screens being brought out to this location, then we'll know, okay, for sure this is the wall and not some northern kingdom that Jace has arrived at. Like Jace technically has to go to White Harbor. White Harbor is the biggest city in the north. Like specifically, Desmond Manderly is in power at White Harbor, and he's got two sons. One of them's name is Torn, but that's besides the point. They join Rhaenyra's side, and when Rhaenyra loses King's Landing, they try to convince her to go back to them to White Harbor on this ship called the Violande. So the fact that they have a named role, Torrin and then his father Desmond Manderly, they have a named role in the Dance of Dragons. This could likely be White Harbor. This could just be the start of it. Although I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. Like they're building a bunch of other sets and location in this massive studio lot at Leavesden, so it's kind of hard to tell. But here's an interesting idea. What if instead of this being the snow in the north, right? Because you could easily do those with that massive green screen that's inside Leavesden. What if this is just ashes? Like, we do know that the ashes, when Daenerys has the House of the Undying vision on the TV show, everybody thought it was snow, but it was actually ashes. And then remember, in the Game of Thrones Season 8 finales, to the series finale, right? Until the Jon Snow show comes out, we saw that same thing. These ashes that are falling in the Red Keep, and it looks a lot like snow. So what if, because this is from a distance and it's far away, we all think this is snow, but really this is just ashes? And what if this is something like the birth of a character like the Shepherd, where the Shepherd barely survives this battle, right? These dragons killed his entire family or something. So then when he shows up in King's Landing and starts preaching against the dragons and, you know, has everybody go storm the dragon pit, it makes sense. We saw his origin, and like he is like walking through the streets similar to Arya, trying to save people when Daenerys is attacking King's Landing and there's ashes falling around her and she's trying to save children and stuff. What if it's a similar thing and we just have a character walking, or just certain scratch that idea, just named characters walking through the battlefield after it takes place? And this scene, or this catwalk or whatever, had to be built because there's maybe like a 4 or 5 minute scene there, and they can't shoot on location for all that long, so they had to build this just for Season 2. Who knows? Let me know if you guys think this is the wall down below in the comment section. I think it's too early to tell, and I think that little black thing down in the corner is not the lift that takes the Castle Black boys up to the top of the wall. And then also, these images come from Redanian intelligence as well. These images are taken near where they're filming right now, and I think it's the Donnery Quarry. But look at these trees. The trees are broken and intentionally placed in a way to look like something crash landed. Supposedly, the rumors are that this is where the body of either Meleys and Rhaenys falls to the ground, or Aegon and Sunfyre falls to the ground. I think it's more likely where Aegon and Sunfyre fall to the ground, because apparently some other rumors that went along with this were that there were some dudes carrying Aegon's banner arriving there. So maybe this is where Sunfyre stays at in order to feast on the corpses and get strong enough to fly away again. Super exciting. This is one of my favorite new images of the leaks. Okay, and then next up, and this is one of the older leaks, but this was from several days ago. We have Aemond in the courtyard at Harrenhal executing the House Strong members. He puts the garrison to the sword. He executes innocent boys and children. Well, that's the same thing. Just innocent people in general, right? Because of how mad he is that he lost the capital. At this point, Aegon is completely taken out of the picture. Aemond is acting Prince Regent for the Greens, like Helena was trapped in the city when this happens, and he doesn't know what's going on with her. Like, this is the scene that's being filmed. Aemond puts a few people to the sword. There was another person with a wig there, but I feel like that was just a stand-in. There may be an action sequence, and Aemond's stunt double may be involved in that. Perhaps one of the people that he puts, that he tries to put to the sword, try to fight back with him, and that's why Aemond's stunt double was there to film those scenes. Now, what's interesting is that this is right around the time Alys freaking Rivers shows up. Her own TV show is going to be played by Gail Rankin, right? And that's 100% confirmed because HBO has actually announced Gail Rankin being cast as Alys Rivers officially. They made that a public announcement. So right around this time, Alys Rivers is going to start consoling a heartbroken, a little bit more than heartbroken Aemond, right? And the two of them sort of partner up. Now, what's interesting about Alys Rivers is we know that she has a scene with Daemon. In canon, nothing about Alys Rivers is mentioned when Daemon is at Harrenhal. Like, if Alys Rivers was at Harrenhal, her charms, her seducing abilities, her magic, if you will, is ineffective on Daemon. Daemon doesn't give a crap. You don't hear about Alys Rivers when Daemon is at Harrenhal. You don't hear about Alys Rivers until Aemond goes to Harrenhal. And I mentioned Aemond's broken mental state, so Alys Rivers takes advantage of that. She becomes his Melisandre to Stannis. So Alys Rivers becomes this influential character who ultimately may have a bastard child with Aemond, because at the end of the Dance of Dragons, Alys Rivers is held up at Harrenhal with supposedly the bastard of Aemond, right? And remember, Aemond is Prince Regent at the time because everybody thinks King Aegon II is dead. Remember, Rook's Rest sort of takes him out. He sleeps 10 out of every 12 hours. So when Alys Rivers shows up, it's going to be really interesting. She's confirmed, in canon at least, to be a fire witch. She's some sort of red priestess because she looks into her flames and she sees Daemon. That is how it is in canon. It'd be interesting to see how they do it for the TV show, because in the scene that leaked where Alys Rivers was auditioning, supposedly she's treating Daemon's wounds that he gets at Harrenhal. But here's the thing. We know that with casting stuff, things are switched around. For instance, if I'm not mistaken, when Olivia Cook went in and read for the part of Alicent, she was actually doing a scene that Cersei was involved in. And for Jacaerys' lines and the scene that he auditioned for, they actually gave the actor Harry Collette Rhaenyra's lines or something. So they're known to switch things around. So instead of Daemon, this could be Aemond, and maybe Aemond is having his wounds treated that he received when the person that he was trying to put to the sword fought back with him. I'm piecing this all together. Remember, I mentioned the stunt double being used in that scene. Maybe it's because there's an action sequence, and maybe Alys Rivers is actually treating Aemond. But the dialogue that went along with that scene that was taken down, it was copyright strike taken down off of Vimeo. It sounded like Aemond was like, it sounded like it was Daemon, because it's like it was Daemon's manner and the way he talks and stuff. So it's kind of hard to tell, but all that's besides the point. For sure, Aemond will be meeting with Alys this season, and we're gonna get to find out what her magical abilities actually are. If she's a fire witch, red priestess, shadow binding woman from R'hllor like Melisandre. And then real quick before I get out of here, this question, rather, supposed to be a topic, but it was a question that was submitted by my boy, the North Must Remember, who is an executive producer of this video, alongside Tyler Schnabel, the North Must Remembers, Pebble83, and Destiny Mix Queen Phillips 420, and Breanne Johnson, right? He said, who would I choose to play Bessie with the big tatas in a Robert's Rebellion live-action spinoff? Well, I would pick Rebel Wilson. Alright, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Seems like a good point to wrap this video up. Please do me a favor if you enjoy my content and subscribe to me here on YouTube. It's one of the best things you could ever do for anybody you're a fan of here. Also, if you really enjoyed this video, slap a like on it. Like goal is going to be 420. Then like I mentioned before, super special shout out to every single member of my Dragon Knight tier over on Patreon. A Patreon is a way for me to supplement my income here on YouTube. I drop exclusive content that's available to that platform only, and I kind of go no holds barred. I don't have to filter myself. I can say whatever I want to. I can talk about things that would potentially be copyright striked here on YouTube. So if you want some extra content, please consider joining that. But those members are the North Must Remember, Breanne Johnson, Tyler Schnabel, Destiny Mix Queen Phillips 420, in the recent edition of Pebbles 83. So thank you all to those individuals for your support, and thank you to you for watching. Along that, until there is a sputare, exist, door.